Hey friends, welcome back. Now let's practice and create our final report for this specific dataset. So let me click on the plus symbol here to add a new report page, and then let's get started. So also please be aware that when you create your report here, you also have the option, if you do not select anything, you're simply on the blank report page, you can go here to the formatting option for the report page, and there are also additional things you can do. Like for instance, if you go to the canvas settings here, currently it's selected 16:9, which is the default ratio, which is also the same as in PowerPoint. But sometimes you need to change this, so you can easily do this by clicking here and then choose one of the other options in here, or also use custom. If you want to have, for instance, a Powered by report, which is much, let's say, longer, so you can scroll down for the report, you can also customize this in here and then choose the width and the height the way you want it. So for me, I will go the 16:9, but it's crucial to know where this is because maybe sometimes in the future you will need this. You can also play around with the canvas background here. You can also add images and colors and so on. However, I think this is a little bit misleading because be aware, if you want to add an image in the background, I would normally go with the wallpaper option. So let me maybe show this to you. Go in here for the wallpaper, and then I choose one image. Let me tick this option. And here you can see I have two example images. And if I click one of those images, click on open, you'll see that now I have an image as my background in here, which you can also adjust here using the image fit. If I click on fit, for instance, you'll see that the image changes slightly. And also the same is true if you go to fill, then it looks like that. So you can try these out and figure out what works best for you. Also, if you increase the transparency here a little bit, you see that now the image gets a little bit more transparent, which is often useful because you do not want your audience to focus on the background too much, right? So they are really nice images, and I also have used them in the past for my reports, at least for some of them, but be aware that maybe you play around with transparency so you don't make your audience focus too much on the background, because you actually want to show the numbers, right? The visualizations you have, which should be more focused on. So let me just go transparency down, and let me also remove the image. It was just an example where you can find that if you would like to add that. Also, if you need some images which are royalty-free, and a site which I can recommend to you, if I go to my browser here, is this 𝗡𝒂𝒏. 𝗡𝒂𝒏 is a free online site where you can browse for images. I searched for buildings here, and you have various options, and you can download those images and take a look. But most of them normally are royalty-free, so you can use them for all your projects if you want to do that. There are also other sites, of course, but this is just one which I can give you here, and you can use it and take a look at it. So let me go back to my report, and let's actually then close the canvas settings here, okay? And also the wallpaper in here, okay? So here for the filter pane, you also have options to customize the filter pane, which is this specific pane here on the side. So it's up to you whether you change the background, I want like the border, search box, you want to have it, how you want to style it, make it bigger, up this one here, and so on. So I encourage you, if you're interested in that, play around with it. Most of these options are kind of easy to understand, but I think it's best to try them out, also to remember where to find them, because there's a lot to style in here. Of course, it's up to you at the beginning as a decision whether you want to show this filter pane at all or not, because there's also this eye option here, and you can see if you click this, then the filter pane itself would not be visible for the report consumer. So you can give him or her the option to use the filter pane or not. That's up to you. So let's get started with the report itself. So let me actually name the report. Let's say this is the final report, like that. And now let's actually here maybe change the background a little bit. In this case, I will not use an image. Instead, I will go with on the view with the theme options I have in here. So also, I'm using one of the default themes. In this case, I will go with Innovate, because I'm sure that I will not print this report, so I can use the dark background without, having issues regarding the printing of the report, right? Don't use too much colors in there. So I'll take this option here and choose it. By the way, of course, if you would like to customize the theme, of course, you need to select the theme first, then you can go to Customize, or you can also browse the theme gallery for additional themes, or of course also import your own theme using browser themes, right? So depends, of course, if you need to follow corporate identity guidelines. So let me just use innovate now. Let me tick this option and I will go with this one. Also be aware that if you take this report, which is of course in the resource section as well included for your reference, then later on, of course, all those pages also are now in this dark mode, okay? Just need to be aware of that if you download this, because this is the way I will save it. Okay, so let me actually maybe start with a header. Let's go to insert in here, and then I'll go with a text box. Go with text box and call this the final report. The final report. Like that. Okay, so let me maybe also select all of it, Control A, make it bold, and also make it here 32. That's big. Okay, that's fine. Also make this a bit smaller, and also center this. Okay, and then I still have the visual selected. I will go to, in this case, format, and here under format I will align it, and I will align it center. Okay, so now it's on center or top. That is fine for me. So what else? Well, let's actually use some of the measures we have created, right? So under measures table, we have the total sales in here. So I can click total sales, and I have a bar chart in here. And I could be interested in the development of the sales over time. So this is what we have a dates table for. Remember when we took a look at the drill down functionality, and there we used under the dates table the date column in here. And because we have the auto date time function, the hierarchy is in here, so we can drill in and drill out. And also the report consumer at the end, when he or she interacts with the visual, can also do the same. Maybe I also like to add an additional KPI, let's say the profit ratio. Profit ratio is a percentage number, which means we could not plot it on the same axis, but here we could use, for instance, let's say a bar and line chart, or a line and clustered column chart, Power BI it's called. So let me tick this option. You see that the chart here has not changed, but now we also have an option to add something on the line value in here. So add data fields here. Okay, let's do that. Let's use the profit margin. Let's drag this here onto the line value area, drop it there, and now you can see we also got the profit margin as a line chart in here. Also, you already know that you can always go to the option under the format your visual, under customize, and then here we can play around with different kinds of options. So the legend, we currently can see it on top. It's up to us whether we want to show it, and of course where we want to show it. Also the line style, currently it's set to markers only. We could also say line and markers, and then you see that for profit margin now we don't see a dot, we see a line in here. So I encourage you to try out different options which are available here, because I can't cover all of them, and of course everyone has its own or her own proclivity, or let's say own style which he or she wants to use. So what else can we do? Well, we could add, for instance, here markers. If I can turn them on, now I have also a dot in here for the markers, which of course can also be customized. Here, for instance, the marker shape could be interesting if I want to use something else, like for instance this option here, and you see that the marker is now different. I can increase the marker size, and also I can choose specific color if I want to do that. So that's fine. The customize series is turned off. That is totally fine because we only have one line. So there's no need and no way actually to customize each series individually, because we only have one line, and that means we only have one series for the lines. So let me make this smaller again. Let's go out and let's have a look. What else can we do? Well, of course, we could take a look at the data labels, for instance. We can turn them on. And if I do that, now you see I have all my data labels here included. I can make this a little bit bigger, so it's maybe easier to spot like that. And now, of course, I can also see the labels. For them also, of course, if you tick this option, you can here play around with the position, for instance, for the line, for the column. Auto simply means always that Power BI is trying to figure out the best position to show as much as possible. But if I go with a line and I would say here, I would like to send them above, you'll see that then some of the labels simply get removed because Power BI will avoid overlapping in here. So that's why I leave it for auto now, but it's up to you what exactly you want to do. Also the orientation in here and so on. For the value section here, I think it's fine. The font is fine. You can make it bigger. You can change the size. You can make it bold. You can change the color, which might be helpful depending on your background, of course. And also the units itself. However, here with the million, I'm actually totally fine. because otherwise the number would not really fit on the bar here, right? So that's fine. And what else could we do? Well, we could be interested in, let's say, another visual. Let's say we would like to add here a donut chart. The donut chart needs to have also any kind of KPI. So let's say we are also interested in our profit and would like to see the profit by our products. So let's say we use total profit, take this option, or drag and drop it onto the value section. And you see that now we got one donut chart. So now we need to break this down for the products. So let's go in the product table. And if I would try to add the product name in here, if I do that, you'll see that it gets cluttered. So obviously the donut chart would not be the right chart to show each product and the total profit. So donut charts as well as pie charts, you can use them, even though I prefer at least the donut chart, not the pie chart. I don't really like the pie chart, but that's my personal opinion. The problem here really is that we have too many dimensions, so too many products in here. What you could do, maybe so if you want to do this, you can group the data. Either the grouping is in your data set, so that each product maybe belongs to a product category. Or if that's not the case, you could do the following. You can right click on the name, product name here, and there you have the option to add a new group. So if you take this option, new group, then just wait a second and then a window appears here and you can name this group. Let's say categories, like that, for instance. The field is product name, that's fine. And then you can group them together. So I will do it quite easily, the grouping, but because there's so many products and I don't want to waste your time here, but of course you can be very specific regarding your specific data set later on. So if I just choose the first one and then I hold my shift key and click on the 24, for instance, I've selected all of them. And I can go with group here and say, these are my basics, okay? Like that. And I can do the same for the others. Let's go in here and let's use a little more. Let's go in here up to, let's say 83. I hold my shift key again to select all of them. Let's group them together and say, these are the advanced, okay. And then, for instance, we have last values here and select all of them. So all of them together, hold my shift key, click on group. Let's say these are supplements, okay, like that. All right, so we got 3 product groups. I just came up with some names, some random names out of my head now. So let's click on OK. There's also, by the way, the option to include other. The last group we would not have really needed to create that. We could have, say, other in this case as the option. But for now, I've done all the groupings. Now I click OK. And if I do that, just a second, you'll see that now we have categories in here, which is the group itself. Which, of course, if you click on the 3 dots here, can also be edited later on if you want to change something. So we can use the group instead. So let's actually use this. Let's actually or drag the group itself. Let's take this option here. And I don't want to put this on details. Let me actually drag it up in here. And let me actually get rid of that maybe and drag this in here. Okay, we're good to go. And you see that now we got here our donut chart, and it's much better because it's not that cluttered. So if you want to put something like product on any kind of chart like that, and you know that these are way too many, then maybe the grouping makes sense in here, right? So also for here, we could go in here and customize this further. So if you select this here, you can specify here the detail labels. Do you want to show them? Where do you want to show them? Maybe inside. Give this a try. It looks like that. In my case, I think outside is better, but it's up to you. Just try out the different kinds of positions here and also specify what exactly do you want. Even though I would always recommend, if you also show the label itself in here like that, then it doesn't make sense to actually have a legend in here, right? Because it's then simply double counted here and here, and that doesn't really make any sense. You want to show the relevant information, but you don't want to, well, show the same information twice. Okay, so we got this, and maybe make this also a little bit bigger here, like that, for instance, chart, and also like that. So that's the same height, okay, for this one as well. And then finally, we'd like to add maybe the KPIs here as a card on top. So go in here, and I say I'd like to add KPI cards. So we'll use either the single card, but I have several KPIs, so I will go with the multi-row card. So let me select this here, Just make sure that you first deselect any of the other charts. Otherwise, you would like to change, or you would change the chart type. That's not what you want, or at least not what I want here. So let me make this bigger here, and let's just see what we can add. We can add the total sales in here. We can add the total cost, the total profit, and maybe also the profit margin, right? So we got our 3 or 4 measures in here. Okay. And then, of course, we can always change here the specific formatting options for that. So go in here, category labels, that is fine. And maybe you want to make them big, just to show them a little bit bigger in here. So like that, that I think is fine. You can play around with the color. I leave now the default one. And then for the call out values, let's just see, also maybe increase the size here as well for those. Okay, like that. And of course, you can also make them bold. You can make them italic. Let's just see how that looks like. Well, you can do it. I think I leave it as a default here. Go to cards here. I can adjust here also the title if I want to adjust the title here. I don't have really a title here, so I can skip this here. And I can also then close the callout value here again. I think this is fine. For style, that's fine. As I said, but feel free to try out here and use these different options which are available here. Play around with the padding and so on if you want to do that. Change the background if you want to do that. And also change the colors here and the width for the accent bar if you want to do that, as always said. So go in here and maybe one more thing. Let's go to the format option here and then go to the align, and let's also align this center in here just to have it on top like that. And if you do this, then we also have a little bit more space for those. Let's go in here and also make this a little bit bigger like that. So we have the same size in here and increase the size here maybe also a little bit. So I know on this report, it's not too much information, but here in general, I can also give you a tip. Don't clutter your report. So the reason why Power BI has the option to add several report pages in here is simply also because you don't want to put everything on the same report page. So it's much better to have less data on a report page and only the relevant information, and then use, if you have or if you want to, several report pages. Also as a best practice, a tip from my experience so far. Okay. So that's it actually for creating our final report. Now I'm sure that you come up with a much better report that I'm doing here, and that's actually exactly what you should do. So as I said, try out the different features and functionalities and figure out what works best for you. Also, feel free to use maybe a background image as you've seen before, or also change the ratio of the default page and do other kinds of things. Okay. So that's it. If you got some questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks a lot for watching and hopefully see you in the next video. Until then, best guys.